stand up, say something, and share a memory that you have of Mom, please feel free to do so. And if you don't feel like you can do it, well, just feel free not to do so. I mean, you know, we're not expecting anything. All we're doing is right now, we're wanting to give. So, you know, you aren't going to believe this, but I remember Mom from a very early age. Really, my earliest memory of my mother was that was one mean woman. And I say that because about the earliest thing I can remember with Mom is, I guess I was about 4. And I'd had my tonsils taken out. And back then, that was still the dark ages enough that when a child had tonsils taken out, the child didn't come home that afternoon like they do now. I had to stay in the hospital a couple of days. And I guess because I was 4, I was still in kind of like a crib thing, because I'm not sure if it was a crib or not, but I just remember there was a cage, that I was in a cage. And I remember standing up and looking over to the side of the room, and my mom, who had stayed the night, she's eating bacon and eggs. And I wanted bacon and eggs. And that woman told me no. She said I couldn't have those bacon and eggs. And, you know, as I got older, I later learned it wasn't her fault. It was the protocol that the doctor wouldn't let me have solid food that soon after having my tonsils taken out. One of the other things I remember as a young child about my mother is that she could be extremely confusing. For instance, if you don't stop that crying, I'll give you something to cry about. Well, I was already crying. I thought I had something to cry about. What was she going to do? I later found out. And Mom could definitely spin the cliches and what I like to say, she could tell lies. A couple of things I heard growing up all the time was, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And don't do any job halfway. Now, y'all need to remember those 2 cliches because they're going to come into play a little later. And then, the things that I later learned were lies. Clean those ears or potatoes will grow out of them. You swallow a watermelon seed and one will grow in your belly. Now this was another confusing thing, because wouldn't grape seeds, apple seeds, cantaloupe seeds, wouldn't they have done the same thing? I never heard it said about those. I only heard it said about the watermelon. And I then later learned at the age of 16, you do not throw the things Mama said back in her face. I had come home from school. Must have been a really bad day in school that day. I came home. On my bed were all my clothes that had been washed and folded, that Mom, first of all, had to probably come into my room to gather up anyway. And her instructions were for me to put them up. And I said, Mama, don't do any job halfway. I said, any job worth doing well is worth doing right? Now, Mama didn't yell at me. Mama didn't backhand me. Mama didn't really chastise me. But I will tell you this, from that day forward, I did my own laundry. Plain and simple. Mom was real good at discipline, but every once in a while she would mess up. Her greatest failure in discipline was my sister and I had been fighting. Kind of hard for y'all to believe that, right? And Mom decided, for some reason, the best remedy for that was for me and Suzanne to kiss and make up. I remember kissing my sister. I remember just as soon as I did that, pushing her. I remember her hitting the hardwood floor in the hallway and sliding back a few feet. Well, Mom kind of got the idea that didn't work right. And here's a couple of things you would have never guessed about Mother. She was an expert archer with the bow and arrow. In the 60s, when Suzanne and I were young, Mom and Dad belonged to an archery club, and they participated in tournaments, and Mom won a buku of those tournaments. Mom had a buku of trophies. She had a bunch of trophies. Dad won his share too, but Mom basically had him in the trophy count, had him about 3-1. And she was a very good archer. And that little, small, quiet woman could also rule and dominate a couple of 200-pound men with no problem. I must have been about 20. I'd been working at a truck parts warehouse, loading and unloading trucks. I'd been lifting weights. I had filled out, and me and Daddy decided one day to challenge each other. And we were kind of doing sumo wrestling, pushing and shoving in the living room. I don't know who did it. It doesn't matter. One of us stepped on Mama's foot. I went out the front door in the living room. Dad went the other direction in the living room through the kitchen. He went out the house through the kitchen door. He and I met in the back of the house in the shop where we stayed for the remainder of the day. You don't step on Mama's foot when you're wrestling. Mom was one who was never really concerned with pomp and circumstance or titles or prominence or anything like that. In 1995, February 1995, we had to bury both her mother and her father 3 weeks apart. And we got down there for the funeral the weekend of when my grandfather passed. He was the last one. And I remember Mom and I had been standing there on the front porch of that old country house. And we'd been talking, and finally I just said, Mom, you know now you're the matriarch of the Cook family. And my sweet little mother, with all seriousness, looked at me and went, well, la-ti-da. She wasn't really enamored with that thought. Mom was 84 years old when she finally learned to shoot a pistol. Dad had a few guns in the house, but there was none that she could handle at the age of 83 or 84, and I got her one that she could and had the gunsmith do a little work on it that she could. And then I took her down to where my hunt club is one day and taught her to shoot. Took her, my sister, and my wife. We were going to shoot pistols. That little 84-year-old mother, after she shot a couple of times and could feel the recoil of that little snub-nosed pistol, she's standing about 20 feet away from the target, and I went on ahead, and her little pistol held 5 rounds, and I had her, I filled it up, and I said, okay, Mama, point at that target and put Just pull the triggers fast as you can and see, let's see where you go. That 84-year-old woman put 5 bullets in a circle that big at 20 feet. If you were to walk into her house, kick in her door, you would immediately have been filled with 6 bullets, and then God would have called you home. That's just it. That's what would happen. My sister, on the other hand, the best she could ever do was she was just going to take the guy's kneecaps out. She would cripple him for life, but she wouldn't take him out. Those are just a few of the things I remember. If anybody else has something you want to say, share a memory, I'll step aside and let you speak. And after a few moments of silence, I'll stand back here again and after Curtis sings, and we'll get started. Not yet. Some of them might have to work up some courage.
I want to thank the mom and dad for being good neighbors. I'm not saying goodbye to her, I'll see you later. And if you go into a novelty shop, people got salt shakers, and your mama was a salt shaker. She was the salt of the family. Your daddy was pepper, the spice.
Yes.
And I just thank God that I had good neighbors. 23 or 4 years.
25.
Or something. They're good neighbors. And I thank God for it.
Right.
Well, your mama wasn't a chatty person, but whenever she decided to say something, she usually hit the nail on the head. And I always appreciated her droll sense of humor, because that's the way she delivered the hammer to the nail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened after Dad passed, people finally got to hear Mama talk. And it wasn't long before people were telling my sister and I, y'all didn't get your humor from your dad. You got your humor from your mother. So that was awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Sue. The person you hear talking is my granddaughter, Arrow, also Mom's first granddaughter. Great-granddaughter. Yeah, great-granddaughter. She's a hoot. She does have her grandfather wrapped around her little finger. I will go ahead and admit that. Curtis?